back here at Greek House to moderate another session that I'm really excited about. Now, if we can please be seated, or please give our panelists some respect, and please keep the conversations to a minimum. Okay, so this morning we're going to be talking about mapping growth catalyst among emerging powers, a dialogue on investment prospects across Europe and Asia. Now, I want to start talking about competitive growth. Now, how do you measure growth? What is a growth catalyst? Let's define that a little bit. And what are the differences between Europe and Asia in that regard? So let's start. I'm going to start here with my friend here. What I want you guys to do first is briefly introduce yourself, and we'll go down the line to start with, and then I'll repeat the question, and then we'll get started. But give it about a minute to 2 minutes on your introduction with your name and who you are and who you represent.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, and very elated and honored to be on the same panel of such distinguished guests. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Agnishwar Jayprakash. I'm the founder and CEO of Garuda Aerospace, India's largest and most valuable drone startup. We started out in 2016. I was an alumni of the Harvard Business School, worked in the UN for a couple of years, and had the access to a lot of case studies and impact reports on how disruptive technologies and emerging tech can significantly disrupt several multi-billion-dollar segments and sectors in Asia, Southeast Asia, Africa, and South America. So that was the founding motivation of Garuda Aerospace. Over the last 3 to 4 years, we've grown into the most valuable drone company, providing drones as a product as well as services, integrating our drones with a lot of different probes, sensors, magnetometers, high-powered sprayers, lasers, and providing data analytics in never-before-seen ways. And in fact, we had our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, launch 100 of Garuda's drones in 100 different locations last year. We've been closely working with Invest India. And very recently, we started partnering with a very nice, innovative Greek company, SAS Solutions, Spirit Aeronautical Solutions. So very excited to be sharing my thoughts and views on how synergies between two emerging behemoths in technology space can really disrupt several multi-billion-dollar sectors and industries. Thank you.
Thank you. Firstly, thank you to the Greek House for hosting us and having us on this panel today. I represent Invest India. I'm Varda Taneja, Vice President at Invest India, India's National Investment Promotion and Facilitation Agency of the Government of India. At this organization, I'm heading the entire Europe vertical, and I'm responsible for all inbound investment, trade, market entry, and internationalization support for European companies to have a smooth, facilitated entry into the Indian market. I have had a lot of positive history of working very closely with European companies on their India market entry, including some of the Greek companies as well. In fact, I have an MOU with Enterprise Greece, which is one of the which is our Greek counterpart in the Enterprise Ministry of the Greek government. And I look forward to an exciting discussion on how we can take forward the cooperation between both the regions to create more synergies and add more value in the world.
So I'm Spyros Kintzios. I represent VANOS SA, which is actually a rather old company since 1929. So despite the, let's say, the volume of the company in terms of small, medium enterprise, it possesses a great amount, a great rate of companies, maritime companies. It provides supplies, but also it provides marine technologies, and lately research and development products. Actually participates in research projects, and we are planning new projects. That's all.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. It's my second year here at the Greek House. Thank you so much for having us. I'm Betsabe Botaitis. I'm the CFO and Treasurer of Hedera Hashgraph. Hedera is a blockchain. It's layer 1, and it's for enterprises governed by enterprises. Pretty much what it does is enable enterprises to build really innovative systems and solutions to advance innovation. but primarily for Fortune 500 companies or large private companies.
Okay, so let me start off with the question that I posed to begin with, and that is, let's define growth catalyst. In your mind, what does that mean? And then secondly, how do growth catalysts in emerging economies in Europe differ from those in Asia? And then what can the regions learn from one another, the successes, the failures that challenge those regions, and what can they learn from each other? So I'll start again here, and again, let's keep our answers brief so that everybody gets a chance to speak today. And I've got 5 other questions, so.
Well, that's not too much pressure, but I think if I have to keep it very short and sweet in terms of the 2 major growth catalysts that both of our continents can learn from each other, I would base it as technology, and the second is the youth. I think both countries have an amazing technology backbone, a lot of deep tech space. Technology has been driving growth for at least 2 decades in both of our countries. And it has been the bedrock of all successful, sustainable companies, as well as great sustainable impact as well. So both from the business sector as well as the impact sector, I think technology has been a fundamental growth catalyst. The second is the youth. I think India is one of the largest, in fact, the largest, is home to the largest youth population in the world, where 52% of our country is under the age of 30. So a growing youth population is paramount and is very, very important to ensure that the technology, the first part of it, adds and synergizes with each other and continues on to very, very progressive and mutually beneficial things that can really, really change the world. So I think both technology and youth are fundamentally the biggest growth factors, in my opinion.
Those are also some of the challenges, right? Because I think when you talk about Asia specifically, maybe not as much in Europe, but there is a growing population in Asia. Is there a challenge in your view with educating that many people and preparing them for what's next, and particularly at the pace that this change technology is moving? What is the challenge there for the region, and how do they overcome that?
I think that you brought up a great point. Like educating 1 billion people in a very, very short amount of time and consistently upgrading and updating their educational syllabus is paramount. It's very, very important because
it's a challenge. That's a challenge globally, but yeah.
It is. But in India, it's a lot more because you have only 30% of your population in cities, Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities, and you have 70% of your population in rural India, where it's less amount of connectivity. But with the growth of internet and with a lot of different technologies that are coming in that could supplement technology adoption, I believe that there could be a win-win solution, and there could potentially be in the next maybe 3 to 5 years, as you see the advent of 5G technology and a lot of different ways of way internet is being provided through satellites, through different sort of modems. I believe that educating a growing youth population is going to be possible. While it might have not been the case in the past, I think I'm very optimistic about the future in terms of solving that solution and then taking it forward from there.
I'm going to answer the first question that you asked and probably add on a little bit to what Agnishwar also said. If I was to talk about growth catalysts, especially coming from India, I would say that access to infrastructure or the building of infrastructure, whether it is physical infrastructure in the form of roads, highways, cities, etc., going on to social infrastructure, education, healthcare. This infrastructure is the biggest backbone of propelling growth for any country all over the world. In the case of India, for example, I can tell you the entire focus on building this infrastructure has helped our economy come from the 10th largest economy to the 5th largest economy just in the last 9 years. And if you really were to look at the entire story of India, today we are a $3.75 trillion economy, right? And how have we got here, right? The first $1 trillion took us 60 years to reach after independence. The next $1 trillion took us 8 years to reach. The next $1 trillion took 5 years. And now the expectation is, with the kind of focus that we all have, the country has on infrastructure, we expect this growth, we'll be adding $1 trillion to our economy almost every year. So that's the pace at which the country is expected to be growing in the future. The second point would be around the openness of the people to learn, to adapt, to collaborate, and to cooperate. And I think that is something that we are trying to do a lot, whether it is with Greece, whether it's with other partners in Europe, where we have a very open-minded policy ecosystem. We have 100% FDI allowed. We have a free-flowing trade with all countries. I think this is also helping us learn from best practices being followed in other parts of the world, because there are other, like you said, developed countries already, right? So there is so much for us to actually learn from and save ourselves from some of the mistakes that other countries did. And lastly, to come to one of the points that you asked him on skilling the young population, I want to tell you that while a large part of the world believes that a large population is not good, it's actually our country's biggest strength. It is what has helped our country be the most resilient economy throughout the pandemic, when we insulated ourselves from all the supply chain disruptions that took place. We have such a strong market innate in the population that's coming up, with such a strong spending power, that it is enough for it to also not just absorb the demand of India, but also take on, more opportunities from outside the world as well. So the strength of that market is what has helped the country tide over some of the toughest times that it has faced. And it's this young population, I believe, and we two very young representatives of New India for you here today are actually testimony to this whole fact.
But I do think a counterpoint to what you're saying, though, I do think this education point is really important, because if that population isn't educated properly, then that youth population becomes a problem, 100%. Right? And so it's the same thing you're seeing in the subcontinent in Africa, where over 50% of the population is under 35 or 30, and without that education base, that those economies are going to be left behind.
I just had one point to add. I think what you say is exactly right, and it's very important that education is super important. But I think on top of that, the Indian success story has been a combination of education and skilling.
Sure.
To ensure that the skilling and experience in terms of workplace happens even before you get to the workplace.
Right.
I think that sort of, in fact, what we do at Garuda is recruit really young. We go after kids in schools and in colleges while they have the time of the day when they're in their teens and their early 20s. That's the best time for you to learn new skills. And I think what we've done as a country, per se, very successfully, is to ensure we've been open to a lot of different collaborations and partnerships and companies coming forward. And that has really been, I would say, a huge momentum shift in the last 5 to 7 years. And what we're doing different is in terms of adding the skill component to the education aspect.
Sure. And I'm sure you have a different take.
Actually, I'm very close to what we heard right now. So the key factors for growth, after almost 12 years of 12 hard years in Greece, which actually part of Europe, we're now, let's say, living in a better world. Regarding Europe, starting from Greece, I think that technology, it's crucial, but technology without humanitarianism or without a framework that it's ethical, it is oriented, it's steered by human needs, it is totally a loss. So adaptive technology, I could say, and more specifically, adaptive artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. If you have an adaptive artificial intelligence, you can work in healthcare, you can work in whatever service you provide, you can work in training and educating, you can work to help in growth. So the first for us is technology, and I think that the second is how the openness, the political willing and the openness to support growth. So you have to not to invent, but to motivate a changing culture to a collaborative environment to changing management and all this stuff that you need to promote your goals. That was all.
I just agree with everything you guys said. The speed of innovation is incredibly important. Education and environment, geopolitical environment that enables growth. That's the way that I will summarize it.
Okay. So let's move on to the next question. What are the key sectors in emerging European and Asian markets that are currently attracting the most foreign investments? And how sustainable are these investments in the long term? So I'll start down here and then come back down this way.
Well, I'm going to speak primarily from my corner, what I see in terms of blockchain and AI. So I think that the blockchain world, we had some what we call crypto winter for 2 to 3 years of pretty bad news. We all know about FTX and everything else. But what we are seeing right now, especially after the United States approved 11 FTAs on Bitcoin, and what we expect is an amazing growth in the next years. But during that time, that was a little slow. Corporations and governments continue to build. They were always building on the blockchain. They were building from the stable coins, CBDCs, to sustainability or carbon trading. And that's the area we're going to see a significant growth in investment. In fact, I just came from another conference in St. Moritz, and a lot of the statistics said that their expectation is in the next 5 years, institutions as well as high net worth individuals and individuals will move about 47% of their treasury into digital assets. And that means a lot. That's a huge movement of what we're expecting. So I see a lot of growth, not only because it is interesting, it's a new asset class, but because it's really fueling innovation. And we're going to see very soon new business models coming because of blockchain.
It was too short. Yeah, I mean, to speak again. So, okay, I think that adaptive artificial intelligence, as I said before, it's going to be a major sector that will be to be invested many structures, and many people will invest on that. So this is also crucial, but innovation is always on the back side of this. Also, energy, renewable energy, and the health sector would be the other three, let's say the other two investment sectors that we see that it will move forward everyone. But in these three options...
Do you see that in Europe and in Asia, or is that just in Europe?
No, it is Europe and Asia together. I mean, if you have such kind of a population with this life expectancy, for sure you're going to have more health problems for the people. So you need to invest in healthcare to afford such kind of people on Earth. Also energy, it lies on the same side. What I wanted to conclude is all these should keep a balance with resources. I mean, we're trading supplies for ships. So these are resources. You have people working on this side, you have people innovating green emissions projects and so. So it is connected to keep a balance with your resources. Your turn.
So I think if I was to just speak from an Indian perspective, of course, almost every sector is at this point one of those star sectors for attracting investment. Namely, if I was to talk about some of the top ones, it would be electronics, textiles, food processing, renewable energy, and pharmaceuticals. But I think if I was to talk more in a collaborative sense, just from the Europe perspective as well, I see a lot of collaboration and growth opportunities coming up, specifically in precision engineering instruments. I think that's where technology in Europe is, completely based out of there. It's technology that India could really use to collaborate and learn from and help you guys scale it. Second is pharmaceuticals. I think some of the largest pharma companies are based out of Europe. India is not just a huge market for healthcare, but also has a huge manufacturing base for pharmaceutical and medical devices companies. So there's a huge scope of collaboration here. And I think lastly, is tourism. India is aggressively working towards building its tourism ecosystem. And there is, in fact, so much that we have to learn from our Greek friends over here on how to make ourselves one of the top attractive tourist destinations in the world.
To add, I think all three spoke of amazing segments and sectors. I honestly believe the emerging technology space is going to be a huge attractive tool for investments in the future. And just to add to what Varda says, in terms of precision manufacturing, precision engineering, for a growing population like India and like to solve a lot of problems related to climate change, you would need to adopt technology. Now, I can state one example in precision agriculture. In India, we have a 55% market share. That is, Garuda Aerospace has a 55% market share on the agricultural drones. These spray fertilizers, growth nutrients, and do a lot of crop monitoring to increase food crop productivity by 28%. And it is also disrupting a very labor-intensive, pesticide spraying or fertilizer spraying mechanism in the fields. So we're putting in drones in the hands of youngsters in rural India who otherwise would probably come to urban India trying to become a cab driver or a delivery boy and such. What we're also doing is instilling a dignity of labor. I think it's very, very fundamentally important for for all of these investments coming in to be it Europe or in Asia, to have a fundamental aspect of technology as well as leveraging and harnessing the human capital by skilling and empowering youth, particularly in women. Our Prime Minister usually says there are only 4 different segments in the society. One is the farming community, second is the poor, third are women, and fourth is the youth. So if you empower these 4 pillars, it would fundamentally help strong economies to flourish. And I think that's a page that we can take out of what global leaders have been speaking about. And when you combine good investments coming in the space of technologies, especially in precision technology, I believe that a lot of great things will happen in the next 5 to 10 years.
Thank you. Those were great answers. And it sort of led me down as you were talking. I had a question prepared, but it led me to another question that I have to ask now. And I hope I don't have any politicians on the panel. And the question is, when we're talking about technology and how it can, and we've talked about how it can help us globally, whether it's in Asia, Europe, or the West. But there's a move globally to put restraints on things like generative AI. There's so many questions about ethics and so many questions about privacy and so many questions when you can talk about AI and healthcare as well. What are your views on the movement to regulate some of this new technology that is emerging and the impact that that's going to have really on growth, on innovation, and really on our ability to look forward, as we were talking, to look forward. And we'll go here, and then.
I think this is one of those questions that I would jump to answer. I genuinely feel that there should never be a lid or regulatory norms curbing innovation or technology. If we had thought the same, that air travel would disrupt traditional movements of people about 100 years ago, we would have never seen innovation come in. And when you take a look of historic human evolution, you've seen the 21st century and now the last 100 years has seen tremendous growth, tremendous innovation, and huge disruption. You could never potentially see the same sort of growth in the last 100 years in any other portion of history. And that is because we have been so open. We've always been very accepting, and we're rewarding people who come out with innovative products or technology, and that's disrupting the world. Now, of course, there's a lot of debate on AI and the good and bad of AI in terms of privacy. Of course, it's very, very important that it doesn't fall in the wrong hands. But at the same time, there is no excuse for us to generalize.
But for it not to fall into the wrong hands means you regulate, right?
Well, there's a combination. I mean, there are ways and means where that can happen, but not entirely. Not wherein you hold innovation until certain other companies secretly through the back door get ahead, and it ultimately becomes a capitalistic market. But what I'm trying to say is that you need to start encouraging young people from thinking out of the box and from understanding that everything is possible, and you're trying to make things better for people. Now, is technology, whatever that may be, whether it's generative AI or automation, like during the COVID crisis, especially when it comes to the drone sector, there was a forcible adoption of automation into processes which couldn't be done by human beings, and it had to be done by machines, like drones. Like, for example, structural damage assessment, residual life analysis, large-scale mapping. These were tasks that used to be done by human beings physically, but then technology came in and we disrupted, and now processes are which used to take 3 days and maybe $5,000 is being done in 3 hours in less than $1,000. So this is creating so much of good, positive, impactful solutions for people to progress in life. So I believe that yes, regulations are important to a very, very minute degree, that it doesn't end up in the wrong hands, but in large scale, it has to be opened up and allowed for it to do what it is designed to do, which is to benefit humankind.
I think, Agnishwar, I agree with you to a point. Yes, it's important to allow innovation to work in the most open manner possible without holding back, so that someone from the back door doesn't innovate on some new product and it becomes this capitalist market. But having said that, and I think we are all very well aware of all the nuances, the good and the bad, not just of generative AI, but of all kinds of technologies. And if you talk about aviation, if you talk about anything, there are always some form of regulatory frameworks which monitor certain movements and things and all the trade and the business that's going on over there. So even for new things and new technologies that are coming in, I think it's important for policymakers and the governments to be creative in the manner in which they put out a regulatory framework to see how they can best benefit the humanity and the citizens of their countries. So I think there has got to be a balance, because I don't think this is something which can go unregulated. But definitely there is need for dialogue and a need for creative inputs to make it happen in the right manner.
Yeah, and I think that too. I think government really struggles to understand and to keep up with these.
Correct.
Right, and so there's got to be a bigger effort, I think.
And I think that's where the private sector needs to come in. I can tell you, like, India is working on some, a draft AI policies. I think the EU came out with one just about a month or so back. It's really important to loop in the right stakeholders, to get the private sector involved in the dialogues for this, because it cannot be a unilateral effort. It can't be a one-way street of just imposing a regulation. It's very important for the governments to understand what the technology is about, what are the good, the bad, the pitfalls, and the consequences of every kind of regulation that comes into place, and what all it may restrict in the future as well. And it has to be a well-informed decision taken place, and that can only happen when you get the right people in the room to have a dialogue on it and really understand what needs to be done.
Well, let's hope that happens.
So I will start with saying that there were voices few months ago saying that we have to stop everything we're doing in artificial intelligence for 6 months and see the regulation field. So this says something about time. if we understand that the computing efficiency every year almost doubles, and if we see the investments that we had 3 years ago, and right now we have 6 times this kind of investments in artificial intelligence, we will understand that regulatory framework, it is crucial, but at the same time, we have to do it openly. What I mean, it's right, it's really nice to have a very good framework, but first we have to educate people. I mean, education provides ethos, ethical questions are raising and answered at the same time, and when you have ethos, you have wealth.
Well, I would like to dip a little bit deeper with regards to why even governments of people were thinking about regulation, and really comes down to trust. Do you trust the government? Do you trust institutions? Do you trust the person next to you to transact? So that's when I really think that we do have a crisis of trust. And is indeed today's and this year's main topic of WEFT. And the reality is that really for governments to regulate, they do need to have, I completely agree with what you were saying in terms of they need to understand the innovation, they need to bring many moving parties coming to talk, but really is ultimately is, do we understand it enough that we trust it? Like in the world of blockchain, like everything is about decentralized. Is we don't trust the middleman to intermediate, so let's remove it. And then now with all the new AI products that are coming, do we trust the AI? How many different, I don't know, an example, fake images we're getting from satellites because of AI. So then how do you really pair emerging technology to be able to bring that trust, and how that helps you to really better understand it? But I will just say again, repeating myself, it's really, I would not answer whether I believe they should be or not, and I will say let's just rebuild trust, and we will need to work in rebuilding trust.
Yeah, I think those are great answers, and thank you, panel. We're going to go to our last question, which is our rapid fire question, because we've got like 5 minutes left or 4 minutes left, and I'm anything but punctual, or try to be. I want you to put your crystal ball on, or play with your crystal ball here in front of you, and think about the next decade. And what are you really excited about for Asia, for Europe? What do you think are the emerging trends? This year there are 4 or 5 AI houses on the block. Last year it was blockchain. The year before it was the crypto bros, right? So
we're still here. We're still here. You can walk and we're there.
But I think, do we even know what innovations are going to happen that are going to really, really change the world? But let's not be fair to you, and let's let you put your crystal ball, play with your crystal ball, and tell us what's the next decade look like for Europe and Asia.
Well, I feel that if we all had the access to that information, we'd probably be sitting at the Congress Center and not here.
Fair enough. But I don't think they can answer the question either.
But at least, but in my opinion, I feel that a lot of emerging tech spaces like fintech, edtech, because of the skilling aspect that we spoke about, precision manufacturing, the collaborations between Europe and Asia, because we have in terms of the human resource capital and the skilling, very affordable manufacturing. Europe has amazing technology and has a history of manufacturing great products. In terms of technology, I think a lot of innovation is going to be collaborative. It's not just going to be individual companies or individual sectors. I think countries are going to realize that rather than trying to compete, let's collaborate. Rather than trying to be jack of all trades, be the ace of one, and let's try to stop reinventing the wheel. Let's figure out what we do really good. Let's figure out what other people are doing greater and synergize to fuel growth. It's very hard for me to put on figure out and work with my crystal ball to sense who's going to have more number of stalls next year. Is it going to be the crypto bros? Is it going to be the fintech guys? Is it going to be the AI? It's very hard to say. But one thing I can say for sure is that the speed of innovation will increase. And that's what I've seen in the drone sector that I'm in. The adoption of drones in a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar market is tremendously fast compared to what I've seen in the past 4 or 5 years. And we've been very fortunate having had access to a lot of investments. And I think after the funding winter, now that people are starting to write checks a lot bigger than what they used to, that is going to be very essential for faster innovation to happen. But I think, again, any company that is a combination of hardware, software, data, and AI, when they do all four together in an integrated manner, I believe they are going to be a lot more dominant in the next 10 years, in my opinion.
What are 3 sectors?
I believe, I think any form of precision engineering and manufacturing, for sure, will be one of them. The second would be any form of automation as a service, not as a product sale, because people would like to just use that service and use any form of automation. And then the third, and all your AI and everything falls under the automation sector. And then the third is deep tech and leveraging the data of what we have done historically. I think data intelligence is very, very understated, undermined, and doesn't get the shine as much as it should. I think both the first couple of sectors that I spoke about, whether it's precision manufacturing and engineering and products, second, the automation, both rely on data. And I think that we are a walking data center. We keep emitting a lot of data and information, but how are we harnessing that data productively to create impact? That is going to be companies that are going to harness all 3 together, not just one of them. But when you have all of these 3 together in a very, very neat balance, I believe that those companies are going to be the ones who are going to be inching their ways like the Apples and the Googles and the Microsoft in the next decade.
Yeah, I don't disagree, because I think the companies that learn to use that data and harness it are going to be the big companies that really survive and really thrive. So I 100% agree.
Totally agree with Agnishwar. Yeah, technology, innovation, and adoption, faster and faster adoption of this technology is a trend which is going to continue to dominate. I think if I was to speak a little bit more at a macro level, I think geopolitically I see a lot of shifts taking place. I see a lot more collaboration actually between Europe and Asia. I already see that trend happening. I feel like traditional partnerships are creating new forms of cooperation with each other. I mean, for example, we have India and the EU and also the EFTA countries negotiating FTAs with each other. So I see new shifts of supply chain, trade, and business coming into place at a more macro level. So maybe 10 years down the line, we see new kinds of partnerships coming out in these spaces as well, and a lot of scaling up of some of these technologies, which are very, very niche.
So I will start with something not so technological, but it is Pareto's rule. I think that this is going to change dramatically. That 20% of people are producing the 80% of wealth all over the world. So I see that 1% of the people will produce the 19.9% of wealth. So, and this will happen because of AI. What I see, it is right now almost 50 million people are using or at least working on AI. So I see this number to be doubled. In 10 billion people, just imagine what is the percentage that we discussed before. And I believe that what we will see to be invested in innovation and research and innovation projects to produce according to people's needs, it would be in environmental solutions, because we, as in the kickoff meeting of this Greek House agenda was the environmental things, the environmental collapse, actually, the climate collapse. So first this, which is connected to energy, renewable energies and how to be more efficient, healthcare, as I said before, and production of foods, production of vaccines, medicines, and so on.
As a CFO, I'm often asked to use my magic ball to forecast numbers. So trying to forecast now innovation, one of the things that I see is the convergence of technology. So really when technologies come together, but they come together in a way that we are not going to even know that they are existing. So we're going to be using the same way that we use internet right now without thinking what is the protocol behind. AI, blockchain will be together, and any other new emerging technology may come, will be technology, and what we're going to see is more and more of those technologies just behind really robust solutions to problems. And one of my wishful thinking here is to see reduction of the wealth gap. And I think especially India is doing an amazing job in adoption of technology, and we will be surprised of how the power of economies start shifting more into Asia. And we see a lot in Dubai and India. We see Africa coming also with a lot of power, and it's precisely because they're focusing on that conversion and reducing the wealth gap. So I really believe that that's going to happen.
Thank you, guys. This was enlightening. It was educational. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here at Greek House. And please join us. You've got the schedule. Come back. But before you leave, grab a tea or a water and enjoy asking these guys questions before they leave, before they get out of here. And thank you very much.
Thank you.